Okay, we're back. This is part 2 of entering data and analyzing results. We already entered all of our data. So I just wanted to show you one thing. Right now we can see we're in data view. All of our participants have their information filled out. Right now what you see, let's get out of that, is the labels for each question, the response categories. If you put your little pointer right here on what looks like a little label icon, it will show you the actual values, right? That's not necessarily important, but if you want to see the actual categories, I'm not sure how the program you open up will be set up, but mine automatically opens up to showing me these different labels, but we can click back and forth. So we can see the values, and now we can see the labels. So that's just a little side note if you're interested. One thing to consider when you are entering your data is you may want to have one of your classmates read off the responses for each participant as you enter the data. Because sometimes it could be a little time consuming if you're looking at the paper survey and trying to enter it at the same time. So it's a good idea to do this in teams and have another person read off the responses as you enter the data. Another thing to mention is if you go back to variable view, we have right now 4 questions here. You guys will have about 20 or a little bit less. Some of your questions might be qualitative, where you have an open-ended question where you ask respondents just to write their opinion or thoughts or why they think something is true. For the purpose of this exercise, don't add those questions to this database because the responses are very long, they're qualitative, they're very difficult to code. Most of your questions on your surveys look like this, where you're asking about gender or race or age, or you're asking questions about opinions, and it's very easy to add a value to each of the categories. With qualitative questions, it's more difficult to do, so for the sake of this exercise, just exclude those from the database. You can analyze them on your own after you do the quantitative analysis part. It's up to you. So what we want to do, what we care about, is this little option up here, Analyze. So on your toolbar, there's an option for Analyze. It's the only thing we're concerned about. If we click on Analyze, there's a lot of different things we can do. You're going to do the most basic thing, which is called descriptive statistics. So you're going to bring your mouse down to descriptive statistics, and all we care about right now is looking at the frequencies. We want to know how many of our participants are male or female, how many of our participants are of a certain age group, what percentage of our participants are a certain racial group, and so on and so on. So we want to get the frequency. We click on frequencies, and here's all of our questions listed in the left. I want to know the frequency for all of my questions. So I'm going to hold down the Shift button, click on the last one, everything is highlighted, and I'm going to bring them over. You can do this one by one. It's easier if you hold down the Shift key, but you can do it one by one. I want to know the frequency for all of my variables, all of the questions. So all I'm going to do is click OK. Now what's going to happen, well, it's supposed to automatically happen, but if you go down to the SPSS program here, just put your pointer over it, click on the output, all of your questions appear. This is what we call a frequency table. So if you recall, I only have 4 questions. So if you look at the frequency tables, 1, 2, 3, 4, I only have 4. So this is exactly what you want. You want all 20 of your questions or so to appear. And now we need to interpret this, and you need to get a Word document out and start writing this up. So what do we see? I know we only have 5 participants in this example, but we could write 60% of our participants are male, 40% are female. It's always a good idea after you write 60% to put in parentheses after the 60% the number 3. So we know that the number 3 is telling us how many participants, but we're also getting a sense of the percentage, right? We want to know the percentage and the number. So the way we write this is there were a total of 60%, and then in parentheses, number equals 3, close parenthesis, 60% were male. I'll show some examples of what that looks like in a Word document in a bit. Now we can look at the age group. Well, we can see that 40% were between the ages of 18 and 22, same as 23 to 24, and 1 was 20. So something that I noticed, very interesting. So if we go back to our output window, something that I noticed I thought was strange is I had 4 categories for what is your age group, but the 4th one does not appear. That means that nobody who filled out my survey was over the age of 30, because if you recall, what is your age group? If I go back to the database and I look at variable view, one of the age groups, one of the categories is over 30, but it does not appear in my output window because nobody circled that response. So don't be alarmed if that doesn't pop up. Here we see lifetime police interactions. What's the frequency? Well, most of my respondents, 60%, indicated that most of their police interactions were positive. So that's something we would want to write down. 60% of our participants indicate that most of their interactions with law enforcement were positive. So we would want to write that down. Now, I could simply bring up a Word document. 60%, or n equals 3, n indicating the number of respondents indicated they had mostly positive. There we go. So this is question 4, right? What you guys can do, what you should do, all you have to do is present some bullets of your results. So here, I think it was 60%, n equals 3, because it's 3 respondents. And the other 40, okay, so this is indicating the gender of the respondents. It's capturing all respondents. Most respondents were African American. Let's just put the percentage in the number because numbers are important. This is what we care about. only 20% were Caucasian, okay? And this is what we want to do. So if you have about 20 different questions, you should have 20 bullets telling me the results of your survey. So you should continue on like this. If you're writing out 60% here, you're doing that because when you start a sentence, you shouldn't write the number 60. You should write out the word, but if it's somewhere in the middle of your statement, it's okay to write the number followed by a percent sign. Okay, so this is an example of what your results will look like. And this is all you really need to do for this exercise. So I'm just going to close out of this. So again, you should have all of your frequency tables in the output. It might be a good idea if you don't have time to do this all at once, and you actually should save it regardless. You have to save your output, right? We saved our database, but the output screen is something very different. Survey, results, output. Okay, so make sure you save your outputs and your survey. We should save this because we may have made some changes. And that's it. We're done with this portion.